very first thing that we need to do is go to File, and then New, then go to Project. And then you're going to see a couple of different things here. What you're going to want to do is click on Android, and then select Android Application Project, and click Next. Now you're going to see a few different things here. You're going to have the application name, and this is what you want your application to be called in the Play Store and in other places. The project name is going to be the name for the project within Eclipse itself. You need a unique name for every project in Eclipse. And then the package name is going to be the unique identifier of the application, and I'll show you a little bit more about that. So we'll just call it My First App. And for the project name, I usually recommend just getting rid of the spaces. And then package name. Now this is, like I said before, the unique identifier for the application in the Android market or Google Play. What they typically recommend doing is if you have a domain, for example, like when you create a game or an application and you have a website for it, it's usually the reverse of the domain with the application name at the end. So for example, if my domain was example.com, then it would be com.example. And then the name of the application itself. It's important to keep these the same, and you want to keep track of it too, because it will depend on versioning, or else if you create a second application that's similar to the first, but it's slightly different and so on. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take example and delete it, and put in total beginners. So it's com.totalbeginners.myfirstapp, and you can call it whatever you want. It's not really that important. The only thing about it is that it has to use a valid Java package name. So that would be things, no special characters, don't use spaces, that sort of thing. And if you do, for example, I'll put a space or something like that, you'll usually see an error when you try to go next. So we have that. The Build SDK, you're going to want to probably choose the latest version, because then you get all the goodies that all the new features of that API, for example. And then the minimum that you want to support. For example, if you do choose Android 2.2, most people now have 2.3 or higher, but if you really want to maximize access to your app, they say if you start with Android 2.2 and go all the way up to the latest, you'll have about 93% of the market share. It's completely up to you. For this project, we're not really going to make anything special, so you can just leave it the same. And then you'll see create custom launcher icon and create project and workspace. You can leave those both, and we'll see this in the next step here. So click next. Alright, and this is the custom launcher icon part. And you can choose, they have some pre-done ones here. I'm just going to select that, but you can kind of see, you can change certain colors. You can also choose an image that you want, or text, for example. So I'm just going to go next. And then you're going to also see two things here, blank activity and master detail flow. For this project, we're just going to choose blank activity and click next. And then you'll have some more things. Activity name, for example, is the name of the activity class that will be created. The layout name, the name of the layout that will be created for the activity. Really, you don't have to pay that much attention to these as of right now for the type of project that we're going to do. I know certain things like class, if you're not familiar with programming or Java, may not make a whole lot of sense right now. But we'll be explaining that later when we get more in depth. So I'm just going to go ahead and click finish. And then you'll see a whole bunch of things that show up here. And you may think to yourself, I didn't create all of these, different folders and, all these other things. That's a nice thing. It automatically kind of sets you up and lays out the ground, or, kind of like the ground or the framework for the application itself without you having to do a whole lot. So that's really nice. And then you can kind of get an idea of what your application will look like. You can see here's kind of the code view and a graphical layout. We'll get more into that later, of course. But the next part is going to be setting up an Android virtual device. So if we go up to the top here, you'll see this little thing, opens Android Virtual Device Manager. I'm going to go ahead and click that, and we're going to have to create a new virtual device. So we go new. Now for a name, that's going to be something to kind of help you keep it separated between devices, because you're going to want to set up a test device for every, kind of one per different version or screen resolution, so you really test it on as many devices as possible, even if you don't actually go out and buy the devices themselves, because you really want cross compatibility with your application. For example, if I have it a Galaxy Nexus or something like that, and it looks really great, but then I also have the Nexus 10 or a tablet or something like that, I want to make sure that it looks kind of good on all things. And you can also specify it to screen size, which we'll talk about later. So right now, normally you're going to want to make this a little bit more descriptive, but I'm just going to put test device right now. And you can go ahead and choose your latest API level. I would recommend choosing ARM for the CPU. It's the most common. Android phones that you're going to be using are probably going to be ARM processors. And also the file size. It doesn't matter too much here. You're not going to be making, your SD card. You don't need it to be huge or anything like that. Right now I'm just going to set it to 64 megabytes. That's good enough. These other things we'll worry about a little bit later. We don't need to worry about it right now. You can just leave it at the default and click Create AVD. Then you're going to see it right here. So we just click on it to select it, and then we can click Start. And you're going to get this. It's the launch options. Scale display to real size. That's going to actually make it, if the device were on your monitor, it would be, big or small depending on what type of resolution you have for your monitor itself. But I'm going to go ahead and keep that unchecked. This doesn't need to be checked, and click Launch. Now the first thing that's going to happen, let me just pull this over here, it's going to take a while to set up. So it's going to start the emulator, which it's doing right now, and then it's actually going to boot up the device. And if you've ever, completely turned off an Android device and start it back up, it's like a computer. It takes a while to start back up. So once this gets finished, we'll go ahead and continue with the next part. Alright, and you can see it starting up here. Again, it will take a while. And the very first time that you set it up, you're going to have to kind of go through the setup. And what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and switch my resolution so you can see it a little easier. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And you can see it looks pretty much just like it would if you actually bought a new device that was completely vanilla, kind of the stock Android operating system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to minimize this. And then I'm also going to close this here. And let me just switch my resolution back so you can see. Alright, and then what we're going to do is there's two different ways to run your app here. The way that we're going to choose is if you go and find this kind of icon here, it's going to say Run As. And you can just click Run As, Android Application, and click OK. And as you can see here, it says Launching My First App. And then it automatically launched here, and you can see Main Activity and Hello World. You can also find it's in the drawer here. Alright. And then you'll also find your application in your drawer, at least you should. Oh, yep. And here we go, main activity. I'll click that and it'll launch it. And it says Hello World. That's your very first application. I know it doesn't do much and it's extremely simple and you probably have no idea how it even says Hello World. But that's okay. Right now it's just to give you the idea of how the application kind of works and setting up an Android virtual device. That's all we have for lesson number 2. Please join us and we're going to get a little more in depth and of course keep it at a beginner's pace so you know exactly what's happening. We thank you for tuning in, and if you enjoyed this video, please do make sure to visit our site, and if you would, your donations are greatly appreciated. This is completely free. As you can tell on our website, we don't have any advertisements or anything like that. We really want to keep it a very easy and simple to use user experience, and if you